What's up, y'all? Y'all are listening to Living Corporate's flagship podcast. If you didn't know, Living Corporate helps organizations build employee engagement and market trust through data analytics and data transformation, our e-learning platform, and brand marketing storytelling. We're so excited for you to be here today. The conversation you're about to hear is going to connect the dots between employee experience and go-to-market effectiveness. If you're not ready, get ready. Here we go. What's going on? I'm so excited to be sitting down with Gisele Marcus. Gisele, how you doing?
Good. How are you today?
I'm going to tell you the truth. I am exhausted. I was talking to you off mic, got these 2 newborn twins. You and I have tried like 17 times to get this podcast.
Well, I listened to the podcast about the twins, so congratulations.
Listen, I appreciate your congratulations, and I appreciate the grace you're giving me because I know we had to reschedule. This is, I think, our 3rd time, but I'm really appreciative of the fact that we were able to connect. Look, there's so many ways we could have this, so many places we could take this conversation. You know, I think about like the current landscape of higher education and just really like student experience. And, you know, I think like we've had all these narratives and discussions around DEI being under attack. And I think that is a, frankly, at this point, like a really myopic lens to take and a framing to take, because I'm going to put my cards on the table. I don't believe that what we're experiencing right now is a singular attack on like some vague, opaque concept. I believe what we're seeing is really an attack on like healthy, fair experience. I'd love to hear more about the work that you're doing at the university that you serve, and the function that it plays in building healthy experience for students.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I serve 2 roles. So I'm double hatting in DEI right now. So I am a professor of practice for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I am also the vice dean for the same. So I have a staff role as well as a teaching role. And you know what? Since this is, so I'm just going to go off script for a second, if that's okay. I'm thinking I might want to retape that because my titles are going to change. So probably by the time this releases, it'll be different. So I think I'm going to start that over with what that is. So thank you for asking. Right now, I have 2 roles that actually involve what you're referring to as a fair experience. So I have a teaching role where I'm a professor of practice of global leadership and cultural fluency. And I am also the leader of our inclusive excellence division. And in terms of, you had asked about, what do I do? What does that look like? So my responsibility for my staff role is to ensure that our students, our faculty, our staff, also our community, our alumni, that we are providing experiences for them where they're feeling valued, where they are feeling heard, right? And, what does that look like? So recently, I developed a relationship with another organization called the Talent Development Impact Lab. So this will speak to the community component. And their role is to up-level middle managers so that they can work within senior level, executive level roles. And it's been amazing in that they've been in business since COVID, and 84% of the participants have actually been promoted once. 44% have been promoted twice. And they have a 7-month program, non-degree, where they include universities to provide the coursework that's actually needed for them to up-level. So last year we taught strategy. This year we'll be teaching about data analytics and AI. And clearly, those are key areas today, that still are, I would say, emerging and changing every day. So I feel, to your point about providing this healthy, fair experience, that is really an opportunity to do that. So what's great about it is we get to showcase, and other universities that are partners with this organization have the opportunity to showcase, our teaching staff, and bring to bear these type of subjects. But at the same time, we're also able to enhance our programs in that we have, like, for example, the MBA program here. The last class had represented like 39 different countries, for example, right? And diversity is important to us because when our students go into the world, there's a book called Diversity Explosion that's by a fellow at the Brookings Institution, where he talks about the changing landscape, right? So the landscape of the workplace in 2050 is different than it was in 1970, right? And with that, we're sending people into the world where it's going to be diverse. So back to this TDIL experience, we're also giving them the opportunity to look at our programs and see if they want to consider an advanced degree, right? And what's been great about it is that the universities in this program are offering the opportunity for them, if they go through TDIL, if you're interested in getting the secondary degree, you can actually get it at up to 50% off the cost. So I think, that is also helping to provide this healthy experience, because education right now can be very expensive and also cost prohibitive, right? So that's one leg in terms of the community. And then in terms of our staff, so like just yesterday, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, right? Speaking of healthy, so we actually had a session on mental health yesterday, sponsored by the National Association, NAMI, National Association of Mental Illness. And that was very eye-opening, just in terms of the number of people that have mental illness, as a challenge. And they were able to provide a lot of resources in terms of like a hotline to call, in terms of you have to call for emergency like 911. They give you an alternative to that, and also to ask for someone who's certified in dealing with mental health. So I think, even though we are a higher ed institution, our goal is to make sure, that our workforce too, is healthy. On the other side, my teaching role, I teach a course called Leading Across Differences. And that is to prepare students for that workforce that's on the horizon. And some of the course will talk about DEI around the globe, right? Because I teach my course from a U.S. perspective. However, if you diagnose, let's say India, for example, and we're looking at the caste system, right? This is more of like a class issue. Versus in the United States, we often talk about race, right? If you go to, the UK, they may also have more so an emphasis on women. So when you think about the world and moving around the globe, you're going to run into people that may not be like you. And how can we help you to work better with them and to increase your employee engagement where you plant your feet? So in my class, we talk about race, we talk about gender, we talk about LGBTQ, we talk about bias, we talk about the aging workforce. This is the first time that we've had 5 generations in the workforce. And I also have an article about that, Entrepreneur Magazine, about how that also is complex, right? So those are the things that we're doing to ideally help people be comfortable in the skin they're in, and being comfortable speaking with people that may be different from them.
I think it's just so easy to, again, like, look at even higher education and looking at like these resources as something hoity-toity or esoteric, and it's like, no, these are actual tools that can help make sure that the student experience is rich, and that the talent leaving the campus is entering the workforce prepared and ready to be successful.
Correct. Correct. And I would say this too. I've been looking at the landscape in terms of schools that actually provide, well, business schools that provide this kind of content, and it's not offered widely, right? So I always tell my students that they are better prepared than their peers if they understand how to work across cultures, across age, across religion. Because regardless to what you major in, whether you're in marketing, operations, organizational behavior, whatever you choose, one thing is for sure, you're going to have to work in teams with people, right? That's going to be your common denominator. And you're either going to have to lead or you're going to have to be part of a team. And if you have that skill set very well tapped down, you're going to be sought after because companies are looking to uplevel their margin. In doing that, they're solving problems. They are, getting to the root cause of why challenges do exist. But to do that, having of course, right, the research tells us, when you're trying to solve problems, having a diversity of people to do that, you're better off in terms of the solution that you come to, that it's more rich because of that opportunity.
I'm also thinking about the future of work and how like the current actions by this administration is going to impact the future. I mean, what
Mm.
what amendments or actions are you taking right now to kind of guard against the resistance that you're experiencing in the space that you operate? It's again in a DEI adjacent or DEI role in higher education. Like, what does it look like for you right now?
Yeah. So for me right now, like everyone else, it's challenging, right? And it's something that clearly in my role, I've been very active, right? And can appreciate how my institution is taking the time to be clear about what we do need to do, right? And also being communicative as well. So I would say I think that is most important at this time, and also to just be transparent, right? Because we see what's going on around us, right? And of course, if you're in one of these roles, you're concerned, right? But in the end, the truth of the matter is we recognize that we have challenges in the space that need to be solved, right? So when we think about our international students, I recently had an intern that was from Colombia to actually do some research along with her peers to understand, some of the challenges that people from other countries are having in terms of being a student here. And it's not, germane just to here, but when you come to the United States and you haven't been here before, things like how you go about doing your job search can be very different than how you do that in your own country, right? So how we need to make students comfortable with that. We need to ensure that those students, they may have, many of them speak multiple languages, right? They may have, a heavy accent, right? And that they may feel subconscious about that, right? So if that's the case, how do we help them through that? How do we help them be successful? Because in the end, when they go into the world and they say that they went here, we want them to have a good experience. And we want their employer to say, we can appreciate how Wash U, Olin Business School, prepares them for the world, right? So regardless of what the executive orders say, inherent in the work as being a school of higher education, you still need to solve for challenges that your stakeholders have. Same thing, in terms of we think about faculty, right? And faculty that may be diverse, right? Their experience, is sometimes different, from that of someone who is of the historic majority population, right? And we know this because in surveys, that employee experience surveys, we ask these questions, right? And shame on us, right? If we don't take that data and make it actionable, right? So, regardless of what the executive orders are saying, for us to function as a institution where our stakeholders are learning and our faculty are thriving, the work still has to get done somehow. Now, you can put it under the auspices of calling it something different, but that doesn't negate the fact that the work still needs to be done. And I'm someone who, I don't care what you call the work. The question is, are you actually doing the work? Right? So we see a number of companies who have said, you know what, that's not our thing. And if you peel back the onion for most of them and you ask, what were they doing anyway? Oftentimes, it's a coffin, right? That's empty. There's nothing there. So in many cases, we're not really losing anything. And I think that is what we need to focus on versus what we call a thing.
You know, I continue to, in moments where, in seasons where the theater of a thing is attacked, and there's like, just like I would say in the summer of George Floyd, there was a lot of window dressing and a celebration of window dressing, and then celebration of the celebration of the window dressing, but not necessarily. But like when you were, you may have been called a party pooper or whatever, or a Debbie Downer, for even in that season saying, okay, great, but like, what are we actually doing? I think the inverse in this season is also appropriate. So, okay, hey, we're attacking the, okay, great, we don't like this, we don't like that executive. Okay, what are we? Let's still focus on what is the impact we're trying to achieve, and we can call it what we like. However, like we need, and I think like especially in moments of high, when things are really critical and tensions are really high, I think like a way to just like not lose momentum or totally lose momentum, and also not lose hope, is to just keep the main thing, right? The framework and idea of preparing the workforce for a diverse workforce is important.
It is.
It is, and so the thing about Washington University of St. Louis, where you're the vice dean, Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, as well as the professor of practice of DEI. I mean, what advice would you give to the workforce of the future right now, who is concerned? I mean, they're concerned about, they're entering a world of work where workplace stability and security seems to be more tenuous than ever because of AI and increased capitalistic pressures to appease shareholders. You're also, like in terms of cost of living, like what advice would you give to students who are getting ready to graduate and enter this world of work, or just young professionals, period?
Yes. So I would say three things. First, I would say be a lifelong learner, because the landscape is changing, right? I think about, let's just say today, right, with AI and data and analytics, it is really emerging, and not enough people know enough about it, and it's not going away. I think about when apps started, being vogue. People didn't know how to program them, and there was like this dearth, right? And lack of talent to be able to do it. So I would say being a lifelong learner is one thing that is really important, and to embrace habits that help you do that. That might be 20 minutes a day, right? You double click into, for me, it's AI, because I feel that it's not going anywhere. And the more I know about it, it can only help me, right? So that's one thing I would say. Second of all, I would suggest consider multiple streams of income, because the day of, one job, like my mother worked at the phone company for 44 years and 8 months, our contemporaries are not going to see that, right? And if a revenue stream goes away, you don't want, if you have one and it goes away, you don't want to be scrambling,
Right.
right? So to protect your family's finances, I suggest multiple streams of income. So that might be a mainstay, where you have the majority of your income in one place, but always be trying to grow a way to make additional money and compensation outside of whatever your mainstay is, because one day your mainstay may no longer be your mainstay. And then what do you have? So I think multiple streams of income, is really important. And then last, not least, I would say keep your skill set sharp around things such as like emotional intelligence, right? Being able to know yourself, what your strengths are, what your challenges are. I always say no one should know you better than you know yourself. Someone that you work for should never surprise you by telling you something about you that you did not know. So there's a lot of tools out there where Strength Finders, for example, and other tools where you can get a good understanding about where you are as an individual and what you need to improve upon. Don't wait for someone to have to tell you that. Do that on your own. That would be the 3 pieces of advice I'd offer.
Gisele, like I appreciate you. I think we could continue on. Probably need to have you back for a part 2. Before I let you go, I think I have 2 last questions.
Sure.
One, so you've given advice for young professionals and prospective professionals in the workforce. What advice would you give to executives in this moment?
To executives in this moment. So something I hold firm to are my values, right? Who I am, how I became who I am. And that also informs the work that I do. And when your values do not align to your work, you can't be authentic because the two don't go together. So for an executive, I would say be who you are all the time. Be consistent in who you are all the time. People know what they're getting when you're consistent. But when you say your value is respect, your value is, say it can even be lifelong learning, right? But what you exude in the workplace is south of that, that's a problem. And you can't fake that for long. So the emperor, at some point, the clothes come off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, consistency is critical. And I believe that like the days of the executive sitting behind this like mysterious veneer of like, professional, like this, like we can see behind the curtain way easier now. And I also believe that executive leaders are dealing with a workforce that don't mind calling you on your bullshit either, right? And so, how one conducts themselves and like this idea around integrity and authenticity is actually going to grow even more important because people are going to be watching you and how you show up.
Very true.
Where can people learn more about Gisele Marcus? Where can they learn more about the work that you do?
Certainly. A couple places. So you can go to my website, which is GiseleMarcus.com, GiseleMarcus.com. And you can see what I'm up to there. And also, I am on pretty much most platforms. So LinkedIn is where you'd find the most about me. I'm also on Instagram, Gisele Marcus there as well, and Gisele Marcus on LinkedIn. I keep it consistent. See, weren't we just talking about that?
You keep it consistent, and guess what? It's easy. It's easier for us to keep track and engage you because we know who you are.
Exactly, and I cannot thank you enough for having me. I feel blessed being that we had a number of mishaps to get here, but we got here.
We got here, Gisele.
We did.
Listen, thank you. And again, for those who want to learn more about Gisele Marcus, make sure you click the link in the show notes. Again, it's Gisele Marcus, Vice Dean and Professor in Practice at Washington University in St. Louis. Gisele, we have to have you back for part 2. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, preparing the current and future of work and a workforce that is more diverse and is going to continue to grow more diverse. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.